So Job 13. So Job takes 3 chapters to respond to his great friend Zophar. This is the last one. He's the most bitter at this point here. Or maybe it's actually I think it's Job. I think it's sorry, it's Job 14. So
Yeah.
I'll read the thing and then I'll pause in like 2 places and ask you guys what you think. But this will be very short. So he starts off with this. So he's still continuing. He says, Job 14, mortals born of woman are of few days and full of trouble. And he's a guy who's really upset. So he would say something like that. It's like our lives are short and life sucks. That's basically what he says. They spring up like flowers and wither away. Like fleeting shadows, they do not endure. Who from the New Testament said something like that with a different metaphor? Our lives are so short. Who from the New Testament? It's a
Mm.
famous. What's that? Someone say something? Someone said James. They're just afraid to say it again. So yeah, James, he said James said our life is like a vapor. But he was taking from somewhere else in the Old Testament as well. So it wasn't original with him. But so Job is bitter, but he's not wrong. We spring up like flowers and wither away. He says, what's First Peter? Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yes, yeah, that's right. Job 14. So I'll skip down to verse 7. He says, so this is the bitterness coming out. And Job, I feel like I'm a broken record, but Job is so uh he's so bold in the way he talks to God. He's going to really cross the line in a minute. So he says in verse 7, at least there is hope for a tree. If it's cut down, it'll sprout again, and its new shoots will not fail. Its roots may grow old in the ground, and its stump die in the soil. Yet at the scent of water, it'll bud and put forth shoots like a plant. When I was a kid, we had a huge windstorm in Tacoma in the early 90s. It was a huge windstorm. Trees were down everywhere. And we had to cut up a tree in our front yard that fell, a huge tree. And it became like a chia tree because nothing but a stump, but it started growing again. I mean, it never grew, but it was like a bush on a tree. And so that reminds me of what Job says here. It just starts growing again. So he says, when a tree is cut down and starts growing again, but people like me, who you torture, we just die. So he says in verse 10, but a man dies and is laid low. He breathes his last and is no more. As the water of a lake dries up or a riverbed becomes parched and dry, so he lies down and does not rise. Till the heavens are no more, people will not wake or be roused from their sleep. What do you think about his attitude so far? Does he seem like a guy with a lot of hope?
Frustration.
No. Yeah,
Not the most helpful.
he, what's that? Just say it. What did you say?
Well, everybody else is already saying it anyway. I was going to say it's not the most helpful attitude, but it's understandable.
Yeah, he's like he's feeling sorry for himself. He's really frustrated. We're not the only people that feel sorry for ourselves. He feels sorry for himself. There's no hope. Trees get second chances, but people like me, nothing. We're just gonna die and it's over. Um, you know, I don't think we need to. Some people look at Job and they're like, oh, Job didn't think there was a life after death because he talks about verse 10. He dies and is laid low. He breathes his last and is no more. I think people that say things like, people say, like, Job must not have believed there was life after death, for example, and they'll look at something like that. I think that people who do things like that are reading the Bible like it's cardboard. When you're upset, you say things, you don't really like literally mean what you say. You're just very frustrated, or you don't actually mean it that way. You're just, and I think that even though Job's clearly frustrated and that's where he's coming from, people like to read those frustrated words in a real cold, like analytical way and not realize the true emotion that produced them. And so they read them all raw. Job's not trying to make some statement about life after death. He's just saying that he feels like a tree gets a second chance, but I'm gonna die, and I'm not gonna get another. There's not gonna be a better tomorrow for me because I'm just gonna be gone. Why can't things get better for me? Is basically what he seems to be, getting at. Um, let's see. Verses 13 to 17 are very interesting. So what do you guys think about this? This is what he says. And you need to picture someone, he's not like writing this cold analytical, essay. Like this is like he's like thinking, talking out loud. So in verses 13 to 17, we read, "If only you would hide me in the grave and conceal me till your anger has passed. If only you would set me a time and then remember me. If someone dies, will they live again? All the days of my hard service, I will wait for my renewal to come. You'll call and I'll answer you. You will long for the creature your hands have made. Surely then you'll count my steps, but not keep track of my sin. My offenses will be sealed up in a bag, and you will cover over my sin." So, what's he saying in verses 13 to 17? Yeah, he seems hopeful. So, what's verse 13? What is verse 13 saying? Like, if you wanted to paraphrase, what is verse 13 even saying?
So Job wants God to hide him so that when his wrath is out and about and until it comes back to him so that he doesn't face any more trouble.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, could you move on to someone else for a while and then come back to me later? Just set me aside, you know? Uh, and that's a real honest thing to say. I mean, it's a real it's just a real true thing that someone would ask. But he has hope. Verse 14, I'm going to, all the days of my hard service, I will wait for my renewal to come. He does think there's going to be a better, like tomorrow. What do you think about verses 16 to 17? It sounds like something you would see in the New Testament, you know? So if someone, he talks about, one day, basically one day, when your anger's past, you're going to come back and I'll be there and you'll take my sin and you'll cast it away, you'll cover it over, you're not going to keep track of it. This is a hope that he has. It's like, I know one day this is going to happen and I really wish it would happen soon. So, but if someone ever tells you, it's like this old cliche about how God in the New Testament's very nice and sweet and gentle and forgiving, but God in the Old Testament's very mean and cruel and harsh. And that's like a cliche that you might hear that some people throw out, but it's a lie and it's not true because Job knows about grace. He knows that his sin's going to be taken care of. He's looking forward to that. This isn't someone who's just terrified of God. He's like looking way beyond the horizon. He's like, this is what I'm hoping for. Does anyone else have any thoughts about that section?
Job have known that there would be a Messiah coming?
Yeah, that's a really hard question. I think Abraham, he's around the same time Abraham was around. He's far away from Abraham. He's probably in what's now Saudi Arabia. So he's far away from Abraham, but Abraham knew something about the Messiah. Hebrews 11 talks about the kind of faith he had, how he was waiting for a better tomorrow, a better city that would come. So I think Job knew something. I think Job knew enough to trust and hope in God as his savior. I don't know exactly if he knew, I don't know everything that he knew. The further you are along in the story, the more you know. Just like the further along you are watching like a movie, the more you understand about what's going on. But I think he knew enough to have hope and trust in God as his savior. I don't know how much he knew though. Clearly he seemed to know something, close to what we would believe. All the details, I'm sure not, but I think he knew enough. So he's so full of hope, but like us, have you ever been really like going through a very terrible time, maybe a very stressful time, and you have these weird mood swings where you feel like full of hope, or you'll feel like things are okay, but then 5 minutes later you become very despairing again. Like it just switched. Like I was fine 30 minutes ago. Now I'm just depressed and I'm upset and I'm moody and everything. But 30 minutes ago I was in a better place. What happened? That seems to happen to Job as we finish the chapter in verses 18 to 22, because after that, what does he say in verses 18 to 22? Does he seem happy in verses 18 to 22?
No.
No.
I'm reading here what's in my Bible.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since Job considers life hard, perhaps he is implying that he will wait for relief from his suffering through death to find out his answer.
What verse is that comment on?
14.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think that's good for back there. And this is, in 18 to 22, yeah, he says, you destroy a person's hope. He tells that to God, like just as a mountain erodes and crumbles, water, wears it down and sweeps it all away eventually, like the hurricane that's hitting Florida right now. He says that's how you destroy a person's hope. You just wash it away with violent force. What a thing to say to God. But he's very bitter and very upset. And we've all said a lot of terrible thought, maybe things we shouldn't think. Job is just saying it out loud in the privacy of three very close friends. Poor Job, he didn't know we'd be reading his words now and criticizing him. Poor guy. But yeah, he thought it was private. Little did he know God had other plans. But that's what he accuses God of destroying hope. So basically, he keeps coming back to God, this is unfair. Why this is happening to me? He says, verse 20, you overpower them once and for all, the hopes. You just dash them away and they're gone. You change their countenance and send them away. If their children are honored, they do not know it. If their offspring are brought low, they do not see it. They feel but the pain of their own bodies and mourn only for themselves. So he's just saying you just smash everything to pieces and wipe and wash everyone's hope away. Basically my hope away. And that's how he finishes his remarks to Zophar, or really to God. He's very sad. He's very upset. He's accusing God of being unjust. And that's how it ends. And Eliphaz is very indignant and is going to answer and come back with some comments. But that's Job. That's Job 14. So this could sound really depressing if you just leave it like that. But we read the first 4 verses of Psalm 90 when we started our prayer meeting. And I keep coming back to this, but either there's a reason why God is putting you through something that you're going through. Either he has a reason and he's in control of it and he's superintending what's happening for a reason that we might not understand, or he's powerless and he's really going to try and fix it. And which one of those is true? Which one of those does the Bible show us? Does the Bible show us a God who wishes he could fix what's going on in your life?
God can.
Who wishes that he could fix, the thing that's happening to you and he's going to try really hard? Or do we have a God who is in charge and working through what's happening to you for reasons that might only be that are only going to become clear later, or perhaps after we die.
That's a good question for your sign. Is God in charge?
Ah, is God in charge? Okay, well, that's a good one. Is God in charge?
And if he is.
But in the what makes it hard is Job would have said, well, it's the first one. God's in charge. And he did say that in chapters 1 and 2. But the time quickly came when the correct answer wasn't, it's not that it wasn't enough, but he's having so much trouble trying to deal with that. As he's having all this pain and frustration and heartache going on. And eventually Job's going to come to the point where he instead of just knowing it in his head, he's going to confess to God that you are the one who's in charge and I don't know anything. I don't know anything. You're the one who has a plan, who's wise, and who knows what he's doing, and I don't know and understand anything. But right now that's sort of in his head. It's not in his heart. And one of the things Job is there for the book is so we can read the struggles of someone who is going from this intellectual, God's in charge, it's okay, to I really believe God is in charge, even when this happens to me. So that's the value that the book of Job has. Not these pat 2-second answers, but to see someone struggle through all the questions we ask, all the feelings we feel when bad things happen that are not our fault. We can see Job asking the same questions, accusing God and saying things we know we're not supposed to say. And we see him come to realize that because we have a God who's in charge of everything, the God of all the earth knows what he's doing and always does right, even if we don't understand it. And that's how we need to look at Job, even when he says things that are not good, like, God, you destroy someone's hope. You destroy my hope. So